Hey guys, it's Shelby, otherwise known as Shelbizleee here on YouTube, and today in honor of National Coming Out Day, I thought I would tell my coming out story. If you guys have been watching my channel, you may not know this unless you picked up on it in one of my previous videos where I mentioned that the LGBT laws that are set in place to discriminate against the LGBT community affect me. Not all of you probably caught on to that, but I am a lesbian and I do have a partner. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Shelby, like I said. On this channel, I like to talk about social issues, but more than that, I just think that the community on YouTube is so awesome, so subscribe to my channel if you're interested. I wanted to make this video today because I know there are a lot of LGBTQ plus people who haven't come out yet, maybe come out to their parents or even to their friends, and I really think that days like National Coming Out Day are really important to address those things, because I think it's really sad that anyone would hide who they are and who they love because society is judging them for it for no real reason. Me loving someone isn't hurting you or hurting anyone else, so I just wanted to tell my story because I didn't have the best story. My story didn't go smoothly. My coming out did not go smoothly. Everyone was not supportive of me. As a matter of fact, most people in my family were not. But I made it through all the pain and all the horrible things that were said to me, and I'm okay now. And I just think that is the most encouraging thing, is maybe someone in the LGBT community comes across this today and says, wow, like, it's totally going to be okay. Even if everyone doesn't accept me at first, even if someone doesn't accept me forever, it's going to be okay. And that's what I want you to get out of this story today. So without further ado, if you're interested in hearing my story, stay tuned. So throughout my life, I wouldn't say that I have always been a lesbian. For most of my life, I was very distracted by feelings that I shouldn't have had at such a young age, and I never really was very self-aware. So even if I have been having these sort of feelings for women all my life, I had no idea, because from the time I was in 5th grade, I was dating a guy who was a whole nother story time in and of itself, but very abusive emotionally and physically, and just very controlling. I was always so caught up in making sure that he wasn't mad at me and making sure that we were okay that I never really stopped to think about how I was feeling. And I know that sounds crazy, but I was with this guy from my 5th grade year to my junior year in high school. And then I was only single for about 2 months before this other guy that I knew asked me out, and I said yes. And again, I never really had very strong feelings for him at all, but he was just so nice and it was easy. So I stayed in that relationship, again, very unaware of my actual feelings and my actual personal self. And as crazy as that sounds, I stayed with that guy until my junior year in college. At the beginning of my junior year in college, I met my current girlfriend in my oceanography lab class. She was my lab partner, and I knew that she was gay or lesbian. She told me right off the bat she was not ashamed of it at all. She had already gone through the turmoil of, you know, dealing with how it feels and being aware and comfortable with who she was. And at the time I was still dating that other guy, but eventually we broke up, and then a couple months went by and I started noticing that I would do things differently for my girlfriend when she was my friend at the time. Like if we were gonna hang out, I would make sure I looked so pretty. I would make sure my hair was done and my makeup was done. Not that she cared about any of those things, but I was paying special attention to impress her, I was noticing it. Because once I was out of that other relationship, I became very self-aware of my feelings and why I felt them and what they meant to me. So one day, randomly, I, got really upset at my girlfriend for no reason. We were friends at this time, but my current girlfriend, I got really upset with her for something that was very small, and I got very emotional over it. And I remember thinking in the moment, like, oh my God, like, I think I really like her. Can that be? Is that even possible for me? And then I remember being really afraid and going home and like really thinking about it, because for so long I had been in this state of just going through the motions, but this time I didn't have the opportunity to do that. I had to sit down and really think, okay, is this how I feel? And for the longest time, even after I started dating my girlfriend, I did think that being gay was a choice, and I'll get to that more later in the story. So the first people I told were my best friends, and they just said they knew. The first person told me, I knew you were gonna say that. The other person, my best friend, was the person who boycotted Chick-fil-A during my childhood because of their stance against gay people, and so I knew she was gonna be supportive. Of course she was. Then I told my sister, and she was just very like, about it. She didn't have really a reaction, and you'll hear later, like, me and my family, we weren't very like open communication type of families. Like, this is probably why I didn't know who I was and how I felt and how to express myself for the longest time, because I wasn't raised that way. And then after that, I had about a handful of more people to tell. I told my cousin, who had seen me go through the depression of my previous breakup, and she was just glad to know that I was happy again, so of course she supported me. And then her mom, my aunt, was also just like, she's more religious, so she was like, you know, you're gonna have to answer to God for this and that type of thing. But she also never made me feel like I was disgusting or wrong or sick or any of those things. So then I had to tell my parents. So long story short, before I started dating my girlfriend, when we were legitimately just friends, I brought her home to meet my family, and they were perfectly fine with it. They knew she was gay and they were fine with it. They didn't care at all. They accepted her just like any other person. But then the day I came home to tell them that she was now my girlfriend is where I may have made a mistake. We had only been dating for a few months, but I didn't see any point in hiding it from anyone. I was not ashamed or embarrassed. I was completely comfortable with how I felt because I knew it was how I felt. And so I went home for my sister's birthday party, and like a few hours before the party, I told my mom. And the first mistake I probably made was telling her right before a family gathering, and the second mistake you'll find out later. So we tell her, and she just kind of acts chill about it. She maybe seems a little bit in disbelief, but I reassure her, like, no, this is really how I feel, and we're together now. So, and she didn't seem angry, she just seemed kind of nonchalant about it. So then some time goes by and my sister's birthday party starts and everyone's showing up, and I'm just having a good time, like talking to my friends, talking to my family, talking to my sister, and it was all fine, and I had no idea what was happening at the time. But the next day I found out that during the entire party, my mom was going around and talking to all of my family about the fact that I was gay and the fact that I was dating my girlfriend. She hadn't told me she had a problem with it, but she was going around and talking to all of my family about it, whom I never got the opportunity to tell. They only found out through my mother's big mouth. And she was going to everyone and like boo-hooing about the fact that she had to go through this and why did she have to deal with this, and making it very about her. So my whole family knew because my mom was going around telling literally everyone. But the worst part of it is I didn't tell my mom and my dad together, and my parents are still together. So my dad starts noticing that everyone's acting very strange at this party, everyone's whispering, and he wants to know what the hell is going on. I didn't find this out until the next day either, but my dad basically found out about me and my girlfriend through a rumor at a party, because my mom couldn't keep her mouth shut. So I didn't know any of that was going on, and the party ends and I think everything's fine, and I go to bed and I wake up the next morning, or my mom comes and wakes me up the next morning and goes, come out here by yourself, we need to talk to you. So I go out there and my dad's sitting at the kitchen table and my mom sits down with him, and I obviously know what's coming. There was nothing else that I thought they needed to talk to me about. So at this point I'm realizing my mom has told my dad and my dad knows, and now I'm going to have to sit down and have a conversation with them about it. And growing up, religion was not a priority in my household. I knew my mom was raised Catholic, but my dad had never spoken about religion ever. So even though my dad is from Ohio and he lives in Texas and he is a conservative man, I didn't think that he was going to care. I thought maybe they would think it was weird at first, but it wouldn't have been like a big blowout situation. So I sit down and immediately the bashing starts. They start telling me how disappointed in me they are, how gross they think I am. My dad tells me he thinks I need to go to therapy. I have some mental disorder. How could you do this? You know you're gonna go to hell. When did this start? You're not a lesbian. You don't really like her. Like, telling me that my feelings weren't real. I needed to change my feelings. On and on and on. Just the worst insults you could ever hear from the people who are supposed to love you more than anyone in this world. And I just sat there taking it all in, because what was I going to say? I really was not expecting this to happen. And it just kept going on and on and on. If I can't change my mind about my girlfriend, if I'm going to be this way, then they can't support me. They're not going to pay for me to go to school so that I can fuck around and do stupid shit like this and be a disgusting person, and on and on and on. And they basically ended up telling me that if I didn't break up with my girlfriend, I was no longer going to have an education, and they were going to stop helping me through college. I wasn't going to have a place to live, I wasn't going to have food to eat, and I was not going to be able to further my education because of who I loved. And luckily, like I said, my whole life I had never stopped and thought about who I was or what I wanted or what I felt. but I did about this. I had to think about it. It was not something I could just ease my way into. And so I was completely secure in who I was and how I felt, and I wasn't going to take it. If they were going to take away my education and my funding to live, then I was going to take out loans and I was going to make it work without them. And I told them that. And they took offense to that, as in me choosing her over them. And I had to explain to them, this is not about her. If I pretend that I don't have feelings for her for you, that's not going to change my feelings. It's not going to never happen again. I'm not going to never stop loving her. I'm not maybe going to fall in love with another woman. I'm not going to pretend to not be who I am because you can't deal with it. You need to deal with it. And my parents know I'm not a bullshitter. They know I'm not afraid of threats. I think they knew going into this they weren't going to change my mind. I think they thought maybe they stood a chance because my education was also very important to me, but I wasn't going to shake. I knew I could take out loans. I knew I could do it myself. And so after me telling them that they weren't going to change my mind, they started calming down and coming to terms with it, or at least they said they did. So that conversation ended us saying that our family needs better communication between one another, and I agreed that yes, we'll work on it. But of course, after you just said all these horrible things to me, it's going to be very hard for me to try and open up and talk to you now. And so I went back to school, and they wanted me to call them every so often, but like I said, it was hard to try to talk to them after what had happened. So a couple weeks goes by, and I probably haven't been talking to them very often. I maybe talked to my mom once, and I was really scared to talk to my dad. Or maybe not scared, but me and my dad never really had a very talkative relationship, like an open discussion type of relationship. So it definitely didn't feel like now was the time to do that. So one day I was at work, and I worked in the call center, and my phone rings and it's my dad, and I'm like, oh my god, like I haven't talked to him, I should go take this. And my dad I've never had a conversation on the phone with my dad that lasted longer than 3 minutes, so I didn't think this one would be much longer either, but I was wrong. So again, I get on the phone and he starts saying all these things to me. He says, I know I told you I was going to be able to do this, but I just can't. There's absolutely no way I can put up with this. I can't do it. You know, I'm against all that queer bullshit. And also, you guys, my girlfriend is also black, so he said some racial things about her and how he just can't support me if I'm going to do this. I need to find somewhere to live by next weekend, and that's that. And he hung up on me. So obviously that hurt me. Like, I'm not very close to my parents, although they want to be closer to me, or they act like they do, and I don't have a good relationship with them. But the thought that they want to take away my education because of who I wanted to be with, and the fact that they had weeks to think about it and they still felt that way. They knew I was not kidding. They knew they would lose me if they chose to do this, and they did it anyway. I don't know, like, how do you do that? I don't know. I don't have kids. I have a cat, but I can't imagine that you would have such horrible feelings towards someone simply because of who they are. Why? Like, why? It's not hurting you. Is it embarrassing to you? Maybe, but why? Like, critically ask yourself and think about it. You had so much time to think about it. Why does that bother you? And if you're religious and you think God is going to send me to hell for that, then why the fuck do you follow a religion that tells you that people can't love each other, that the most beautiful thing is wrong? Why would you want to believe that? And if you're not religious, which I'm not, then don't let other people's religion dictate who you are and how you feel and how they want you to feel. Like, just don't. And so he hung up on me, and so I called my mom and I told her what he said, and she just said, oh well, Shelby, I don't know what to tell you. So I cried for the rest of the night, and of course I told my girlfriend, and we cried all night, and I didn't know what to do. For the next week or so, I was terrified, trying to figure out where I was going to live and what I was going to do. And you know, I still never came to terms with how they said those things to me and how they did those things to me. I don't know if we're ever going to have a decent relationship, not just because of that, because of a lot of things that we've been through and a lot of things that have happened throughout my life. But it's hard to ask my girlfriend to hang out with them because after that happened, who was I going to turn to and talk about it other than her? So of course she knows the things they said and how they felt, and I told her if her family had done anything like that to me, you could have never gotten me in the same room with them again. I wouldn't have done it. So we do talk to my family because eventually they did come to terms with it, and they don't say anything like that anymore. They say that they're fine with it. They act fine with it. Me and my girlfriend go to family events with them and everything's fine. But the reality is how do you come back from something like that? How do you forgive someone for saying those things to you? And maybe if you're watching this and you're trying to figure out how to get through it, maybe you are close to your family and you need their support and you want their approval. For me, it really wasn't that way. I knew that if someone wasn't going to support me and who I was and who I loved, they weren't worth it. They didn't need to be in my life. I made the decision before I came out that no matter what the outcome is, I was secure in myself and I knew what I wanted, and their opinions and what they wanted was never going to be more important than what I wanted. So if I could give you any advice, if you're watching this for advice to how to come out, the first thing I would tell you is make sure you know that this is who you are and this is how you feel, because I went through a long part of my life not knowing how I felt, and I would hate for you to have to go through all of the pain and hate and just feeling like a burden and disgusting and whatever else they can throw your way. I would hate for you to have to go through that if you don't, that's not really who you are, if you're still unsure. So know that before you go into this, no matter what they say, if you know who you are, it doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter how they feel. It's about you and your life and your happiness. You don't want to go through life and be unhappy and unsure of who you are because of how other people feel and what other people think. So if you're going to come out, just make sure that you're secure in yourself, and even if the most important people to you in your life disown you, know that either they're going to come around because they truly love you and they want what's best for you and they want you to be happy, and if they don't, if your happiness is not their priority, then theirs should not be yours. If they're not going to be happy for you, then you don't need them in your life. Someone who is not going to support you and love you for who you are is not someone you need to keep around. And that's hard to come to terms with, I'm sure, if it's someone that you really love and you really want in your life, but they're only going to bring negativity into your life. I can't imagine going through life pretending to be something I'm not for someone else. Never do that. It's never going to be worth it. You can't have people in your life who don't support you and are just going to make you miserable. It's not worth it. So that's the first thing I would say is, if you're going to come out, just be very secure in yourself and know that whoever that person is who isn't going to support you for who you are and who you love and what makes you happy, you don't need them in your life. And I can guarantee you that cutting someone like that out of your life is going to give you a much more fulfilling life than keeping that person in your life and either hiding who you are or changing who you are for them. I think situations like this can really show you who your real friends are, can really show you who really cares about you and really loves you. You just have to keep that in mind and know that something is better around the corner. If you're feeling really down and sad about people's reactions when you came out, just know that it's not over. You are completely in control of your life. You can change your course, you can change anything you want. You just have to be dedicated to doing it. You have to put your happiness before anything else. Anything else, your happiness comes first. And that's all I wanted to say today. I had a really hard time with thinking that my parents were going to take away my future because of who I loved. And I think that is the stupidest thing you can do, is tell someone that they're wrong for being happy. And that's no one else's right to tell me that this is the right way to be happy, Shelby, or that's the right way to be happy, Shelby. I'm not going to take it, because I know when I'm happy more than they do. And you just have to keep that in mind. And for anyone watching this who thinks that people in the LGBT community are over dramatic and we've already achieved marriage equality, there's still so many laws against the LGBT community for us to legally be discriminated against. For instance, in the state of Texas, legally, I can be fired just for being gay. And so I say, just put yourself in that place. When you ask why we have days like National Coming Out Days, put yourself in the place of someone who is told by their family that they're sick and disgusting and a disgrace simply because of who they love. And I know I said before that I thought being gay was a choice for the longest time. And I said that because initially when I felt those feelings, I sat down and I thought about it, right? And I made the choice. Am I going to address these feelings or am I going to not? And who else has to do that? Like I said, I went through my whole life dating guys not thinking about that. Not thinking about, okay, I have these feelings. Should I act on them? No, I acted on things and I didn't even have those feelings. Most people don't think, should I be attracted to this person? Okay, let me turn my attraction on. No, you have an attraction and you can choose to act on it or not. But why would you choose not to act on something that could potentially be the greatest love of your life? Seems foolish to me. Seems like you would be wasting an amazing opportunity and potentially wasting your life. So before you ask why people make videos like this, why we have days like that, it's because it's important for people to hear that things are going to be okay no matter how people react to your coming out story. And I would really encourage you to become an ally of the LGBT community and stand by people who feel like they're being discriminated against, who feel like they can't love who they love because society says so, because of some old ancient book. So for those of you who think gay is a choice, I just want you to ask yourself, when did you make your choice? When did you make your choice to be straight? Did you ever do that? Did you ever turn on and off your attraction switch? And I bet that most people out there, if you ask yourself, the answer is no. So in closing, thank you so much for watching. I hope that my advice and my story can maybe give some encouragement to people out there who are afraid to be who they are and are afraid to love who they love. If you like this video, please give it a like, and maybe my next video, if we get to 200 likes, can be a girlfriend tag and you guys can meet my girlfriend. I post videos on a weekly basis if you're new here, every Wednesday and every Friday. I'm super interested in hearing people's perspectives from all walks of life. I want to be an ally to anyone who feels they need support from a community, and that's why I started my YouTube channel. So if you're interested in any of those things, please join my YouTube family and hit that subscribe button. Please share this video if you liked it, because you never know who needs to hear this. I would really like for this to help out someone in their journey. That's the reason I decided to make this video and put myself out there today. I believe that sharing perspectives like this and letting people hear the other side can really help us change the world. I really feel like understanding everyone else's perspective is the only way we can change any wrong in this world. So, again, my name is Shelby, known as Shelbizleee here on YouTube. You can follow me on all my social media. They're linked below. And until next time, create the peace. He didn't betray us. You see what I'm saying? Like, he didn't betray the citizens of this country at all. His betrayal was towards our government that was betraying us.